Hello, my name is Pavel and welcome back to my channel, and we are in a different setting today because I am in my mum's house for Christmas. Well, technically it's the 26th of December and Christmas has passed, but that's where I am, and honestly it feels really weird to be here and kind of be making videos here because I haven't been here in like 4 or 5 months and it is very strange, but I hope the setup is okay. I hope everything looks okay-ish. In 2022 I have watched just under 160 movies, and there has been one movie that has stuck with me the entire year because I watched it in January, and in every single month I always came back to this movie. I always thought about this movie, and this movie had such a strong impact on me. Therefore I was like, why don't I make a video speaking about my favorite movie that came out in 2022, and that's what I'm going to be doing. Technically this movie came out in 2021 in some places, but I know that in some countries, including Ireland, that this film came out in 2022. Therefore it technically counts. I don't care. I need to preface by saying I think this is the best movie of 2022, and if you don't agree, that's perfectly fine. Please don't attack me because just my personal opinion, and I'm going to tell you why I love this movie. If you watch any of my videos, you definitely know what this movie is because I speak about it every single time I get a chance to speak about my favorite movie, and this movie is The Worst Person in the World, directed by, let me try get it right, Joachim Trier. I do not know if I'm saying this man's name right because I watched a YouTube video and someone said Yakim and some people said Yakim, and I have no idea how to pronounce his first name, so therefore I'm going to be referring to him as Trier throughout this video because you know what? I cannot claim that this is like one of my favorite directors of all time and not know how to say his name. So for now, I'm going to say Joachim Trier. I do not know how to pronounce Norwegian names, believe it or not. And the synopsis of The Worst Person in the World reads, before I kind of speak about it and tell you why I absolutely fucking adore this movie. The chronicles of 4 years in the life of Julie, a young woman who navigates the troubled waters of her love life and struggles to find her career path. If you know anything about me from watching my YouTube videos, you know that I feel a little bit confused in life as well at the moment because I do not really understand what is properly happening. I do not know what I want to do with my life, and whenever I watch this was in January last year, so just almost 12 months ago I watched this, and to me this movie kind of felt like a massive comfort to me because watching somebody in their 30s be absolutely just lost, fucking up continuously, it made me feel great. But I have so many notes on my laptop about this movie, so I'm going to talk about them slowly and tell you why I think The Worst Person in the World is the best movie of 2022, because I honestly cannot stop thinking about this movie. I was going to watch it today for this video, like I was going to watch it in this video, but I didn't. I watched it in bed last night on Christmas. I went to bed early on Christmas just to watch this movie. That's how much I adore this film. I feel like I should note that every time I went to try read a Google review for this movie, Mary Poppins reviews kept coming up. I have no idea why that happened, but it did all the time, so I could literally not read anybody's like opinion on this movie on Google reviews. I feel like this movie has an accurate, realistic portrait of life, and I feel like this movie comes across as very honest. It doesn't hold back, and the main character Julie is continuously fucking up. Throughout the movie we see Julie, the main character, continuously swapping between things within her life, such as college courses, relationships, and everything else, all the big things and all the minor things, because she thinks that if she swaps between like college courses, she's going to be happy because she thinks she loves this. And I feel like that's a trap that I used to always fall into as well. This sounds like very pretentious and philosophical, but I don't believe in the idea of saying whenever I have this or whenever I achieve this I'm going to be happy, because it is not fucking realistic. I used to have that mentality all the time, and I still do to an extent, and it's very naive and it's very silly, because whenever you reach that X point you're going to want something else and you're never going to be super satisfied in life. And I feel like this movie really kind of speaks about that, and I really love how it resonated with me, because whenever, as I said, I watched this in January, I felt extremely lost. I didn't really understand what I was doing in life, and I still don't 100%, and it just felt great seeing somebody in their 30s, which is another point I want to get onto, seeing somebody in their 30s feeling extremely lost, continuously fucking up, jumping between relationships, having something concrete in your life, having something like really stable in your life, and be like, you know what, I want to fuck this up. And I feel like I have that mentality as well, because things are going great in my life, but I feel like, just knowing me, I could fuck them up. And I feel like this movie has a really wide range of emotions. It makes you cry, it makes you feel crushed, it makes you smile, it makes you feel warm, and this movie overall is just absolutely beautiful. And I feel like it's important to acknowledge how beautiful this movie is as well. There's one scene where Julie freezes time because she wants to go to her kind of like crush and see him, so everybody around her freezes, the world around her freezes except her and this one person, and that is absolutely beautiful. There's so many like scenes in this movie of characters speaking, but it's graded so beautifully and it looks like a painting. And yeah, I just feel like it's really important to acknowledge how beautiful this movie is as well. I also forgot to say that this movie is divided into 12 chapters, and I feel like it's a perfect way to tell a story of Julie. Like, it breaks it up, it doesn't like dwell on chapters for too long, and you see just the most critical, deep moments of her life, and kind of like understanding the thought process of why she's like fucking things up, why she's like, because at the start of the movie Julie is doing medicine. She's like, you know what, fuck it, I don't want to do medicine, I want to do psychology because I want to understand like the soul. And then she's like, you know what, nope, I'm into photography, I'm going to get into photography from now on. And I really find that interesting because she just continues to keep jumping, and she starts off in a relationship and she's like, you know what, I don't want to be in this relationship anymore because I found this thing and this thing makes me happy, so I'm going to go to this thing that makes me happy. And then she lands at this thing that makes her happy, and then she notices another thing that makes her happy, and she keeps bouncing around. And I love kind of like the portrayal of Julie as a character, because you don't always agree with her, you're not always on her side. There's so many things that she says, especially towards the end of the movie, that you're like, I don't actually agree with you, I agree with the other person. And I absolutely love when a movie does that. It doesn't just kind of paint the main character as perfect and that you have to agree with them, because it kind of challenges your views on the world and kind of like makes you take a step back and gain a different perspective, which I absolutely fucking adored about this movie as well. And I feel like this movie also felt very therapeutic to me, and I think that where therapeutic kind of captures everything that I've just said there as well. And I feel like this movie also, like I have so many points, I feel like this movie also captures the thought of what could have been. And I feel like that resonates with me to a very little extent as well, because I always have that thought process of, if I did this, what would have happened? And I love dwelling on thoughts like that. But also, I was meant to live in Oslo. Like, we were this close, me and my mum, to not moving to Ireland but living in Norway, but we didn't because of mum. She decided Ireland would be a better fit. And it's so weird because we were so close to moving to Oslo, and the more I kind of like sit back and think about it, it kind of like gets me into this like spiral of where I'm thinking about what could have been in my life. And I really find that very interesting, but also kind of terrifying, because my life would have been absolutely flipped around. And I would love to know like where I would have been if I lived in Norway, what sort of person I would have been. It's terrifying, and it's also kind of like interesting to think about, and that's why I feel like the word therapeutic suits this movie so much for me, because it gives me so much space and time to kind of reflect on my own life. But also, I think that showcases to me that this movie is crafted so carefully. And The Worst Person in the World isn't technically a standalone movie. It's a part of a trilogy that's very loosely connected, and it has 3 movies in it. We have Reprise, Oslo, August 31st, and The Worst Person in the World, and they're very loosely connected, and they kind of look at very important parts of people's lives, and you kind of follow the main characters and you understand the biggest problems, and you kind of like get into their head, and you kind of like get very like one-on-one with the characters. And I love how beautiful this trilogy is. And I've watched all the 3 movies, and I still feel like The Worst Person in the World is just absolutely fucking, it's number one. It has to be number one for me, because I don't know, I have a lot more points, so I'm going to keep talking, but I have a lot more to say basically. And also, I have this like weird irrational fear. I do not know where this fear comes from, but turning 30 is something, I cannot pronounce that word. I cannot say 33 properly. I have to like say it in a weird way. Anyway, going into my 30s, I'm 24. I don't really have to worry about that now, but everybody kind of like paints your 30s to be kind of like this very terrifying time where life is just all over the place. And I really love that we focus on Julie's 30s, because it made me terrified of my 30s again. But it's also interesting to me that even though Julie's life gets fucked over continuously, over and over and over again, she still lands on her feet. And it's really interesting. This isn't really a spoiler, but at the end, you see Julie sitting at her desk, right? And it kind of like indicates to us that, yes, she's finally gotten over everything. She's learned to just be happy on her own, live by herself. But if you look at the little details, and I didn't even notice this the first time I watched it, there's like a picture frame, and it's like a drawing of 2 people. And I think that also showcases to the audience that, well, maybe you just do not see her partner in the shot, and that she is still the same person, living in this massive circle and being continuously dependent on other people. And I think that's another very crucial part of this movie. It showcases Julie being continuously dependent on humans for her own happiness, and never really just kind of being happy by herself. You always see her, if something's going wrong, she goes to a party, she meets somebody else, and she kind of occupies her problems with somebody else's company. And I feel like it's very interesting, because I don't know many movies that showcase maybe like deep unhappiness by just showing like dependency on other people. And I feel like this movie captures it very well. And I didn't get that the first time I watched it. I just thought that she was lost. But the more you think about it, the more it shows you that whenever something goes wrong in Julie's life, she just goes to somebody else to try get them to fix her problems. And I think it shows that that's fucking impossible. You cannot do that. You need to sort your own shit out, because nobody else is going to do it for you. Nobody's going to understand your problems like you do. And I love that. And I also, another point that I feel like this movie presents is that you could easily fuck up your life so fucking fast. And there is that temptation, and maybe it's fueled by the idea of youth. Since Julie is just turning 30, she might have the idea that she's still like super young, which she is. Like 30 is young, but maybe she has the idea of like, I can fuck up, I have so much room to fail. But then I think at the same time she has to face this like personal realization that she is not young anymore, and she has to like sort her own life out. And if she doesn't sort her own life out, life is just going to pass her by. And I think that's showcased by her boyfriend, who is 44 and she's 30, and he wants kids, and she's like, I'm not ready and I'm waiting for something, but I don't know what. I think she finds the idea of just randomly fucking up your life super appealing to her, and maybe it's fueled by the idea that she still thinks that she's super young, but then this movie kind of showcases her realization that she's not like as young as she thinks she is. And I love that. I absolutely love that. And she's just like me character, because I watched that and I was like, she's just like me. Not that I'm 30 and confused if I want kids or not, but just the things that I've mentioned. I feel like I could honestly talk about this movie so much, and I feel like all my thoughts have been really jumbled, and I'm sorry if this video is kind of like me just kind of like gushing out about this film. It's very difficult to kind of like put all my thoughts in a linear pattern. Even though I have my laptop right here, I'm reading kind of like off of reading my points, it still doesn't do justice to everything that I want to say. And I feel like once I'm going to be editing this video, I'm going to have even more thoughts. I think once I stop recording, I'm going to have so many thoughts, and I think that's a sign that this movie is absolutely incredible. It's such a beautiful portrait into being lost in life, and I think like Trier is able to craft characters with such precision, with such detail, and I'm so excited to see everything else this man is going to release, because I honestly do think this is my favorite movie of all time, which is like very bold to say, and I think Trier is my favorite director because I just love it. It just creates these emotions and thoughts within me that I'm unable to kind of like explain properly. And I found a very interesting IMDb review of this movie that I'm going to read for you, because I feel like it captures it very well. It's just one little paragraph long, so I'm going to read it and I'm going to let you listen. Virtue is the quality of being a good person and doing the right things, both for yourself and for others. I believe that Trier is problematizing this in the film by asking the question about whether or not you should do what's expected from the world around you, like settling for a more or less standardized life in forms of career and family, or if you should be out there and experiment to find your place in a rather confusing modern society. And I think that summarizes it very well. I fucking love this movie, and maybe I loved it even more because I went into it knowing nothing. I just saw someone discussing it very briefly and I was like, hey, that sounds interesting. And I feel like this is a movie that's going to stick with me for a very long time. And I also feel like I would love to see what my perspective on this movie is when I'm like 30 or 35, because maybe I can relate to this character now in my early 20s, but I won't be able to when I'm a little bit older. And I love that thought, because I really want to capture and just kind of like embrace my love for this movie at the moment, because maybe it won't last. Maybe I'll find something that I relate to more when I grow up a little bit. And I fucking love this movie, and I think you should definitely check it out. It was one of those movies that I knew nothing about. I just watched it and it was absolutely perfect, and it's been on my mind all year, and I feel like it's going to be on my mind for another few years, and hopefully for a lot more years. And I'm so excited to see what Trier is going to make in the future, and you should definitely check it out. It's called The Worst Person in the World by Joachim Trier. And if you do watch it, or if you have watched it, tell me if you like it or not, and what is your favorite movie of all time, because I would love to know. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.